Hi boys and girls, it's Mrs. Smith again. The purpose of this video is to practice adding of fractions and mixed numbers. And so what I'd like to do first is just share with you an anchor chart, okay? And this is something that is attached to the plan book, but I want to go over it with you. So when you're adding mixed numbers, the first thing you want to do, actually, I'm going to change the order of these. The first thing I want you to do is add the fractions. And you may need to find a common denominator first. The second thing you're going to do is add the whole numbers. And then the third thing you're going to do is simplify the fractions. And you may need to do step number 4 where you add the results of the simplified fraction to the whole number. So like in this example, 5 2/3 plus 2 2/3, well the denominators are the same. So 2 plus 2 is 4, so this is 4/3. And then 5 plus 2 is 7. You can't leave 4/3 alone because that's an improper fraction. So you need to convert 4/3 into 1 1/3, and then add that to the 7 to get 8 1/3 is your answer. So we're going to practice this, okay? I'm going to do a problem, and then I'm going to give you a problem just like that, and then I'm going to do a problem and give you one just like that, okay? All right, so number 1, the first one that we're going to try out together is this one right here. 2, let's see here, hold on one second. Yes, 2 1/2, okay, plus 6 1/10. So the first thing I notice right away is that I have 2 different denominators. So I have to think when I skip count by 2 and I skip count by 10, or find the multiples of 2 and 10, what do they share? Well, the common denominator is 10. So I'm going to change both my fractional parts into tenths. So 1/10 is going to stay the same, but 2 1/2 is going to change into a different fraction. So 2 times 5 is 10. So whatever you do to the denominator, do to the numerator. 1 times 5 is 5. So 1/2 is really equivalent to 5/10. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add these numerators together. 5 plus 1 is 6, so 6/10. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add my whole numbers. 2 plus 6 is 8. So my answer is 8 6/10. Now, that is technically correct, but this 6/10 can be simplified. And when we simplify fractions, we think about a greatest common factor that 6 and 10 both share. So when you think about factors, you got to think about the numbers that multiply together to get the answer. So 1 times 6 equals 6, and 2 times 3 equals 6. And that is it for the 6. Then I need to find the factors of 10. 1 times 10 is 10, and 2 times 5 is 10, and that is it. So if you look, the common factors that 6 and 10 share are 1 and 2. So the greatest common factor is 2. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here and I'm going to divide 6/10 by 2, both the numerator and the denominator, and that is going to give me my simplified fraction. So 6 divided by 2, 6 divided by 2 is 3, 10 divided by 2 is 5, and then I bring over my whole number, 8, and so the real true answer to this problem was 8 3/5. So now I'm going to give you a problem, and then I'm going to have you pause the video and solve it. So this was me, now this is you do. Same idea where you're going to have to simplify your answer. So that would be 5 1/3 plus 7 2/4. So what I'd like you to do is pause the video and solve this. And when you are done, then hit play again and I'll go over the answer with you. So go ahead and pause your video now. Okay, boys and girls, so you have finished this problem, so now it's time to go over the answers. So the first thing I notice is that 3 and 4 are my denominators, so they are not the same. So I need to figure out a common denominator, and I do that by skip counting by 3, and then skip counting by 4, and find the least common multiple, which is 12. So that means I'm going to take both my fractions and change them to 12ths. 3 times 4 is 12, so 1 times 4 is 4. So 1/3 is equivalent to 4/12. And 4 times 3 is 12, so 2 times 3 is 6, so 2/4 is equivalent to 6/12. So now I can add them because they are the common denominator. 4 plus 6 is 10, so it's 10/12. And 5 plus 7 is 12. Now, I cannot leave this alone because 10/12 is not in its simplest form. So that means I have to find the greatest common factor of 10 and the greatest common factor of 12, which I know from my first problem, the factors of 10 are 1 and 10 and 2 and 5. And the factors of 12 are a little different. They're 1 and 12, 2 and 6, and 3 and 4. And the common factors are 1 and 2. So the greatest common factor is 2. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to divide 10/12 by my factor, which is 2. And 10 divided by 2 is 5. And 12 divided by 2 is 6. And so my answer is 12 5/6. So these two examples are where all you have to do is simplify your fraction answer. Okay, the next two that we're going to focus on is where you might have to convert or add your results of your simplified fraction to your whole number, which you already started off with. So I'm going to go ahead and model how to do that with number 3, and then I'm going to have you do number 4. So number 3 is 3 3/10 plus 9 3/4. So the first thing I need to do is find a common denominator. And so I need to skip count by 10 and I get a skip count by 4. So 10, 20, 30, 40, I'm going to stop there. And maybe I'll get a match. 4, 8, 12, 16, 20. Oh, there's my common denominator. The smallest denominator that they share is 20. So I'm going to change both my fractions to 20ths. 10 times 2 is 20, so 3 times 2 is 6. 4 times 5 is 20, so 3 times 5 is 15. So when I add 6 plus 15, I get 21 20ths. And when I add my whole number, 3 plus 9 is 12. I cannot leave this fraction the way it is because 21 20ths are those bobblehead or improper fractions. So I need to convert 21 20ths to a mixed number. So I'm going to use my space to the right. And the way that I find my mixed number is by dividing my numerator 21 by my denominator of 20. Because remember, this is still, even though it's a fraction, it's a division problem. So 20 divides into 21 one time. 1 times 20 is 20 with leftover of 1, with a remainder of 1. So 21 20ths is really 1 and 1 20th. So 1 and 1 20th. But I have to remember, don't forget the milk. That 12, so I have to add 12 to that. And so my answer is 13 and 1/20. See how I did that? I had to take what I got from my improper fraction and combine it with my whole number from the original problem. Don't forget the milk. All right, so now this is going to be your turn. You're going to do this one, number 4. Now remember, after I write it, I'm going to say go ahead and pause the video, and I want you to work the problem and then hit play again and see the answer. So here is your problem. 3 2/4 plus 7 3/5. Go ahead and pause the video now and solve it. And then when you are finished, press play and I'll go over the answers. Pause your video now. All right, boys and girls, let's go over number 4. Hopefully you got it right. We'll see. All right, first thing I need to do is figure out my common denominator that 4 and 5 share. So you guys skip count by 4, skip count by 5 till they share a common denominator. So 4, 8, 12, 16, 20. Well, I know 20 is a multiple of 5, so I am going to just go ahead. 5, 10, 15, just to prove it to you. 20. 20 is my common denominator. So I'm going to change them both over to 20ths. 5 times 4 is 20. 3 times 4 is 12. 4 times 5 is 20. 2 times 5 is 10. So now I can add up my common numerators and denominators. 10 plus 12 is 22 20ths. And 3 plus 7 is 10. Now, technically, 10 and 22 20ths would be an answer. But we're 5th graders and we know that we cannot leave 22 20ths the way it is. We need to figure out what it is as a mixed number. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to divide 22, my numerator, by 20, my denominator. So 20 divides into 22 one time with 2 left over. So the 2 becomes my numerator, 20ths. So we've got 1 and 2 20ths. But I have to, don't forget the milk, right? I gotta bring that over and add 10 to that. So it's 11 and 2 20ths. And while technically that is an okay answer, 2 20ths can actually be simplified by finding the greatest common factor. Now, I know that 2 and 20 are even numbers, so at the very least I know that I can divide by 2. And in fact, that is going to be my common factor because 2 is a prime number. It only has one set of factors, 1 times 2. So I'm going to take 2 20ths and divide that by 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 20 divided by 2 is 10. So my answer is 11 and 1/10. All right, boys and girls, that's it for adding mixed numbers or fractions. What I'd like for you to do is to do the 5 questions that are attached to Plan Book to practice this concept a little bit more. Thanks for watching. Have a great evening/day.